Hello and welcome to this video tutorial from Computergaga.com, and in this video we are going to look at how to easily combine the data from multiple worksheets into one. So on this workbook I have 5 different worksheets. We have Hampton, Euston, Brixton, Borough, and then this summary one, which has a chart and some summary figures. What we want to do is combine the first 4 worksheets all together into one big list. For some reason we have received or we work with this data in this manner, but when it comes to analysis using things such as pivot tables, really we want this in one big list for analysis. So how are we going to do that? We're going to use Power Query, and we're going to use an M function called Excel.CurrentWorkbook. And we're going to stack this into one big list. Now, one key thing to mention with the approach we're going to make here, on the 4 sheets I have, Hampton, Euston, etc., the data is formatted in tables. So here I am on Hampton, and if I go to the Design tab at the top, I can see that the table is called Sales Hampton. And if I move to Euston, I can see it's in a table called Sales Euston. And you probably get the idea, there is a consistency there. Something else to bear in mind before we begin, if I click on the little arrow for the name box in the top left corner, look at all of those names. So yes, our data's in tables, and that is essential for this approach. There are other approaches. But we also have name ranges for the figures over here on the summary sheet. These 5 cells have all been named. And I'm mentioning that for a reason. We're going to see this. Right, let's get this party started. Data tab, get data button, from other sources, blank query. That's how I'm getting into this blank query. Depending on your version of Excel, you may find that button under a slightly different menu option. If I click on blank query, this will open the Power Query editor. And straight away I've got the formula bar with the insertion point blinking away, ready for me to type something. Equals to begin a formula. Excel.CurrentWorkbook, open parentheses, closing parentheses. Now it is essential in Power Query that we use the correct case. Obviously double check your typing as well, but the most common issue here is it has to be written in the correct case, capital C, capital W. If I press enter, it's gone and grabbed all of the names that it can see in its entire workbook. So it can grab tables and it can grab named ranges. Now we had our data in that table, which is typically advised anyway, but it's also picked up the name ranges. It's also picked up a print area. Now we didn't see that when I clicked in the name box because that is hidden from use in there. But when somebody sets a print area, a name range is created, and we can see that here too. On the right hand side, before I go any further, I'm going to name this query because this is something I may be using again in the future. So I'm going to call it combine sales. That will do. And now the first main task here, aside from naming it, is we want to only get our tables. So using the filter icon in this name column here, I'm coming into text filters and choosing begins with, because you notice with our tables all of those begin with the word sales. So there needs to be some kind of pattern in your data to be able to differentiate this stuff. Fortunately for us, the word sales begins with them. So I can come in here and just type that in there and click OK. And now everything that doesn't meet that criteria has been removed, leaving me with just those 4 tables. Now I'm going to click on the Combine button in this content column where we have our tables. I'm going to remove the option to use the column name as a prefix. It's telling me the list is maybe incomplete here. I can click on the Load More button, but it is actually complete. You see, it doesn't actually do anything there. These are very simple tables, as you saw, with just 3 columns. Going to keep all that information. Let's click OK. Wow, look at this. Here we go. All of it is now combined into one big list. That's brilliant. There's Southampton, here's South Euston, and if I continued, so you'll see others. You can see at the bottom of the screen, it tells me 620 rows. Now, with this name column, we're now tidying things up. Now it's in one list. It is good if they tell me where it came from. So I want to keep this column for like kind of Hampton, Borough, etc. But I don't need it looking like that anymore. That's the name of the table. So I'm going to select the name column. And on the Home tab, I'm going to use the Replace Values button. And the value to replace is sales. Replace it with nothing. Click OK. Out it goes. Now we've just got the name of the store location. I'm then just going to drag this name before the product type column. For those of you who may be quite new to Power Query, on the right hand side you can see it building up all these applied steps. The great news here is, if I need it to, is that in the future I can just refresh this query again. I don't have to go through this process, although it's quite a simple process, every time this needs to be done. This may be a daily, weekly, monthly thing. Final real step here is to apply some data types. So for this value column, really that's currency data. Product type is text, yes, or alphanumeric, that'll do. This is text. And this one is date. Let me come in here and say it's a date. All the data types are set and the applied step added to the right. I can now come in and close and load this too. And I can either load it directly into a pivot table, create a connection for modeling or other pivot tables, or just load it as a table, which is what I'm going to do for now. New worksheet's a good idea. If I click OK, here we go. The table takes up the name that we gave it. Combine sales is what I called it. So it's now adopted that name, the same name as the query. I can see on the right 620 rows loaded. I can now do whatever I needed to do with this. If I need to total the number of sales in the first 10 days in a month, or how much from Euston and Hampton in the first 10 days in a month, all this is easily done. Now we've got it into one simple list. So I have done a video on something like this in the past. I demonstrated the append query in Power Query, which is great. This is a kind of step on that. Using Excel.CurrentWorkbook is another amazing option. Now, just to finish with this video, I'm going to take a copy of one of the sheets I've got. Let's copy this Borough sheet. I'm going to drag it by holding Control down, release my mouse. I've got a second one. Let's give it a name, Oxford. And I'm going to name the table in the top left, Sales Oxford. And imagine that this is something that I'll do on maybe a weekly basis or something. And now we've just opened a new store since the last time I did it. Now that shouldn't be a problem. We should be able to refresh this query just fine. Just notice on the right hand side, please, that it still says 620 rows. But we've now got a new sheet, haven't we? So, Data tab, refresh these queries. Wow, look at that, 775 rows. If I come over to sheet 1 as it is, here's our data. Let me scroll through it. We've got Hampton, we've got Euston, we've got Brixton, we've got Borough, and then we have Oxford. I can also find this stuff out by just clicking the filter button at the top to confirm that all 5 are included in this list. So that is a nice quick way of combining data from multiple tables, multiple worksheets, into one big list for analysis. I hope you find this video useful. Please check out some of our other tutorials on our YouTube channel and come check us out at Computergaga.com.